Okay, well, we will just dive on in. Welcome, everyone, to our student employment one-on-one session. We are thrilled that you're here joining us. You might have already heard some of our panelists' introductions, but you might not. I think it's always helpful for you guys to hear from your peers as to what they actually did to get the jobs that they have on campus. If you ever go back to the literature, the 3 Ps are what students tend to focus and pay more attention to. And that is your parents, your professors, and your peers. So the rest of us are, administrators of a lot of different programming, but it won't have as much impact, it sounds like, until one of your peers or your professors or your parents tell you about the same thing. And so here is where you can get a little bit of perspective as to what the actual student employee experience is like at UT Dallas. These 5 representatives cover a lot of different departments across campus. Some have been in person, some have been virtual. Some have had just different experiences altogether. And so that is what we want to bring to you here today. So we've structured it to go from the more specific, just the details of who they are, where they work, and then how they went into preparing themselves for employability, how they got ready to send out their resumes, their applications, how they went through it. I think it's just easiest if we go around in a circle and we're doing this by first name and alphabetized. And if we have time at the end, I'll do rapid fire questions on a variety of different employment questions. And, I'll just kind of call that out. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we will have time now that we've been given a little bit of grace from the front end. So we will start with introductions. My name is Zahra Nourani. I'm the Student Employment Coordinator. If you have a job on campus or have explored one, you've probably spoken to me at some point in time or with a member of my team. There's actually only 3 of us, but our tiny team is very, very mighty. We support the 3,000 or so student employees that are currently active on the UT Dallas campus. So, Aayushi, if you could kick us off.
Thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Aayushi Choudhary, and I'm currently working at the Office of Information Technology as a Microsoft 365 specialist. That's a mouthful, but basically, what we do is help you all with any issues related to your tech, and my job specifically holds issues surrounding Microsoft products. Currently, we're on Teams, that's a Microsoft product. If you ever want to watch a recording on streams and you're not able to view it, come to us, we can help you. And I started this job in February, and it's been a great experience. So, thank you.
Hallie, do you want?
So I'm Hallie Brouillette, and I am the executive chair of Meteor Theater. We are the student-led film organization on campus who bring in speakers from the industry to come speak on topics. We have workshops where we teach behind the scenes of film, and we also do 3 to 4 movies every single month that you can come to. And I myself am a literature major and a senior this year.
Nico.
Awesome. Yeah, hi. I'm Nico. I'm Nico Roberts. I work for the Career Center as a marketing and graphic design assistant. So basically, I make graphics and marketing graphics for our social media and for all of the Career Center events that we do, along with my boss. And yeah, it's super great. I started this job in November of last year, and it's been a really great experience so far.
Just a little plug for Nico here. If you follow us on Twitter and you ever came across a meme there, I manage the Twitter account, but I am not that cool to be able to throw out those memes left and right. She is our resident meme maker.
That's also part of my job. It's great. I get to find memes for our Twitter account. I love it.
Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin. I work for the ATech social media. I'm a social media design assistant over at ATech. just kind of similar to what Nico was describing, of just make a lot of graphics for ATech. Both I've made graphics for social media, but also just for stuff like around the ATech building and like flyers and stuff when events happen. I've only actually had this job for a little over a month, so I'm relatively new. But yeah.
Thank you. And rounding us out, Van.
Hello, my name is Van. I am currently a senior child development and psychology double major. Um, I work for SWAB, the Student Union Activities and Advisory Board. We put on free events for students on campus, planned and implemented by other students. Um, we have 4 different chairs, so we have 3 to 4 events per month, and every chair puts on a different event. So we have traditions events, events that go on every like year, variety events, music events like concerts and speaking events. So yes.
Well, glad to have you guys. I think since Robin has is the newest hire, newly onboarded into her position, since we're talking about, getting you ready for employability, what you do, how do you get your resumes ready, how do you prepare for interviews, things of that nature. Robin, if you want to kick us off in terms of resumes. How did you prepare? What did you do to make sure that you really, really shined on paper? Because as you know, application pools can sometimes be very deep for some of these popular jobs. I believe all 5 of you actually have some of the most popular jobs on campus. And so behind these, there can be hundreds of applications. How do you stand out? So, Robin, if you want to kick us off there.
I think, well, for one, my resume, I made sure to just kind of put as much as I could on there. Like obviously nothing that like stretching it too far, but just I remember back like in high school, I helped organize some events and I made sure to write stuff down. So just about like finding what really helps fit on there. And I know for my job as well, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but I also had a portfolio submission for mine. And so that's also something that helped stand out. If you're going into any sort of like design job, make sure you have a portfolio that has all your best stuff on display. But another tip I've heard a lot that helped me a lot is to make sure on portfolios like don't like fill it with too much stuff. I just keep like the best of the best on there. And so during my interview process, I know like I had to like present stuff and I just got a lot of questions about the stuff I've been able to. So just making sure what I do all the time, including right now, is I have a giant stack of sticky notes.
Oh, Robin, you're
Robin,
muted.
I think it muted you.
It did mute me. But I just have like a stack of sticky notes on my desk at all times. I just make sure to write notes down for like when I'm doing interviews or just when I'm talking in general. Like right now, I have like 3 or 4 sticky notes on my desk, all written with stuff. That's something that helps me a lot, just in terms of keeping like helps keep everything in my head when I'm not able to.
Thank you. That's a lot of things to prepare for. Did any of you utilize the career development team resources? Did you meet with a career consultant to start talking through your resumes? Just really freshening it up. Aayushi, I see you raised your hand. Do you want to talk about that process?
So, yes, I know the Career Center offers like a great service in terms of getting your resume ready for jobs. And when I first started applying for jobs, I was also applying for internships at the time. So I was like, why not just get my resume looked at by a professional who actually knows what we're supposed to be doing? I'm a student. I've attended events and they tell me do this, do this, do this, but there's so much information and you can only like understand so much. So it's better to get a professional set of eyes to look at your stuff. So that's what I did, and that really helped me, understand what type of resume I should have for internships, what type of resume I should have for on-campus jobs, and even then, trying to alter your resume as per the job title. So the job that I currently have, that's a customer service job. So if I had prior experience in that field, I made sure to mention that on my resume at the very top and highlighting, some of the things that I did. And I think that really helped me stand out when I first sent in my application. And through that, I was able to get picked for an interview. And I know that the job I'm currently in, people send in a lot of applications for this. So okay, great, good job, you got selected for an interview, but you now also need to nail that. So one thing I did that I think was kind of fun and not people what usually do is, so you see the background behind me. So this is just one of my random backgrounds, but when I was going for my interview, I took a screenshot of the OIT website and put that as my background. So when I first joined the meeting, so my supervisor, who was my interviewer at that time, he was like, "Oh, that's cool." So I think the first 5 seconds made a great impression. So it helped like break the ice, and we just had a great conversation after that. So I think that sort of helped me. But yeah.
That's amazing. Aayushi, if you could talk a little bit, since I know you're in OIT and a lot of times they do one-way interviewing. I know we're skipping a little bit of pieces, but since we're talking about your experience, let's progress that to the next step. Can you talk a little bit about the one-way interview where you recorded yourself presenting in that interview? What was that like to just talk to a computer knowing that you only had a finite number of tries?
hmm So for me, I actually did not have to do that interview. I just had a one-on-one with my supervisor, but I have a couple of friends who did that. And I think one thing that helped them a lot was practicing behavioral questions before the interview, because you know the type of questions that you're going to get asked. If you have no idea and you just blindly go into it, you're going to go blank and spend most of your time just looking at the camera and not knowing what to speak. So just having a basic idea of what you want to say. And I think they give you 2 tries to attempt. So if you like fumble during the first try, just gather your thoughts and make sure, like, have a set of points in your mind ready before you just start speaking to the camera. So that really helps you collect your thoughts and not just blabber on about anything and everything. Usually 3. Okay, yeah, I personally haven't done that interview, so I'm not entirely sure, but 2 or 3. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Let's take it back to the resume prep and just getting ready to put things, like Robin said, putting all of those things on paper, all of the great stuff that you're coming in with. So, Hallie, talk a little bit about that process. How did you gather all your thoughts, gather all of the skills of what tools and tips did you use the career consultant team to make sure that you're really hitting home what your recruiter or hiring manager is looking for and just your general approach?
So I didn't use very much from the actual school when I got my job 3 years ago as a freshman, and I didn't know any of this existed. I was just very poor, and I saw there was a job at Meteor Theater, and I love movies. And so for me, it worked out because I'm someone who I attended Meteor Theater events in the past, and that's a huge thing that I know as the person who now hires people for Meteor Theater. I really look for that because if I see they've attended our events and they know what's happening, that at least gives me some insight into this person's interested in our organization. This person knows what we do. When you come in and you don't know what Meteor Theater is, that's immediately a little red flag for me where I'm like, you could have at least looked up who we are. So that's one thing that I did do before I applied was I had actually just participated in the Cosmic Film Festival, which is Meteor Theater's film festival on campus, and I had won a couple of awards. So when I went in for my interview the next week, they already knew, hey, that was the girl that we just gave a bunch of trophies to, so she knows what she's doing. So that was one huge thing that I would say, like, if you are interviewing for a job and they have some kind of event coming up, if they have anything that you can participate in where you can get your face already in the door, because I know the people who hired me, I had just met them and shook their hands the week before picking up an award. So that's something where they already knew my face, they knew my name, and I would say that was a great step into getting the job because they already knew that I had a background and knowledge of what I was being hired for. So I'd say whatever you can do to get your face in the door before your interview is great.
That's a great point, Hallie. Um, getting your face in the door is fantastic as um, a pre-COVID, I feel, uh, impetus to really making sure that your hiring manager at least knows who you are and has at least seen you. Nico, I know you were hired during the pandemic. You want to talk about, really putting your best foot forward that way since you were a pandemic hire that I am
Yeah.
familiar with. So tell us a little bit about that.
I feel special. A pandemic hire. Yeah, no, I actually also didn't really know a whole lot about the career center before I started working here. Um, so I tried to make sure that my resume and my portfolio were up to date with everything that um, I felt would be important for this job. I had actually been looking for a job for like a couple months before I actually got this position. I was on like Indeed, just like submitting my resume to everything. Um, but yeah, I got like all of my related skills. Like I think Aayushi talked about that. Like I made my resume very like graphic design specific because I knew this was a graphic design job, and so I wanted to make sure that I put down any skills that I had that would either be graphic design related, like specifically graphic design, or like related to this position as a whole, like if I had any experience with marketing or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that my resume was as well rounded and as accurate to what I could possibly do as possible. Because, I really wanted to be able to showcase my skills and the things that I was able to do and the things that I might be able to do in the future. I also mentioned, like in my interviews as well, that I'm a really fast learner, especially when it comes to technology. And so it seems kind of silly to put that kind of thing on a resume, put like fast learner as one of my skills, but it came in handy, and it was something that I ended up talking about in my interviews because I had two. The first one was a phone interview with Satin Blair. She used to work for the Career Center, but she doesn't work here anymore. But I loved her. She was great. And then the second interview was an interview here on Teams with my now boss, Clint. Um, and yeah, I was super nervous, but I just made sure that I was well prepared and I had all of my skills. I had my resume pulled up while I was doing my interview, basically, so I could have like my little section for skills and experiences. I could have those as like talking points because I know like it's super easy to get so freaked out during interviews and stuff like that, but especially if it's not face to face. I know a lot of people get more nervous like in person, but I get really nervous especially on phone calls. Like the phone interview with Satin, I thought I completely bombed it because I couldn't see her face, I couldn't see the expressions she was making, so I didn't know what she was thinking. I didn't know um, how she was reacting to anything I said. Um, but yeah, I just had my resume up, I had my talking points, and it ended up being like a really easy and like chill process. And yeah, it was actually like a lot more easy and straightforward than I expected it to be.
That's great to hear. I mean, considering it was within our division, I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear it was a painless process.
Yeah, I do think it being the career center made that like so much easier.
We do think about interviews day in and day out, so it helps. Van, tell us about, all of the prep work that you did in preparation for your employability. Just how did you set yourself up for success?
Yeah, similar to Hallie, I've also had this job. I'm going into my third year, and prior to that, I had been a volunteer. So a little bit different than Hallie. So I actually knew about SWAB when I was still a high schooler, and I had come to tour UTD. So I think like going into becoming a volunteer, my advisors now, who just saw me as a volunteer, they could kind of tell that I was overly excited for the job. So I think going into this, like showing that you are excited for the position that you want, no matter like what position that you are taking during the interview. As exec chair now, we also do interviews for our new chairs coming in. So I think we've done it like 2 times now, um, where we've had like a new board doing interviews. And I think it really stands out when we're doing interviews. And surely I am just a student, so I'm not the utmost amazing person to be doing interviews, but I've done them. And I think that a person stands out more when you can tell that they are interested and they have knowledge about the position. I feel like sometimes we get interviews where people come in not really knowing what the position holds, and if there's a difference between like, oh, you're interested and you ask questions to find out, that's amazing. But sometimes they come in not knowing what swab is, or situations like that. So I think doing the background knowledge on the job that you're searching for, as well as becoming excited for those positions, um, would be a great like reason and the way to like prepare and set yourself up for whatever position that you're trying to get into.
That's a great point for sure. I know that all of the applications that do stand out are the ones that demonstrate that there's been a lot of research done for that position. Like I said, some of these applicant pools can be deep. And so, how do you stand out? And that is definitely a way to, if I don't know your face, like Hallie said, if you know a lot about me, if you know a lot about our department, what's our division do, what is the goals and missions of that department, that of course is going to stand out to a recruiter because it demonstrates that you care about everything I care about. So of course we want you as part of the team so that we can care about it together. I saw that we had someone join us a little bit late on the panel, but I think she'll be able to give us really great perspective as to someone who works on campus right there. And I don't know if you are on campus right now, but it looks like you're somewhere outside and fresh and happy. So if you could introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background on how you prepared for your position as well.
Hi, I'm Ximena. I'm a senior and I work at the parking office at school. I'm the events coordinator, events lead. So I basically just take care of the calendar of everything that goes on campus. Just basically, literally any event, even if it's virtual and doesn't have to do with parking, I make sure to put it on the calendar. And I coordinate where people can park for big events, especially so that our students can have adequate parking, but so can all of the guests coming in. And I'm actually not on campus right now, but I do work on campus. And so I went back to the office in, I want to say October, but I got hired right before the pandemic started. So I never really worked on campus prior. And what I did to prepare was just, I think I tried to go into my interview very confident just because I didn't really know a lot about parking. Like, there's a lot of software and stuff like that that they use that I think an average person wouldn't really know, like what goes into everything. Just like our parking permits, like you wouldn't think that a sticker on your car has as much going on behind it than it actually does. So I just went in and I really told them that I was really open to learning about everything and how I'm a fast learner. So I would just say try to be as confident as possible, but not over, like not cocky, but just like kind and confident, and let them know that you are able to do the job.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that perspective too. So let's move on. So, what, of course, me being in the Office of Student Employment, I live and breathe all kinds of procedures on getting our students onboarded. So, Ayushi, if you wanted to kick us off a little bit as to what the hiring process was like for you, how long it took, start to finish, from the moment that you submitted your application to the time that my division sent you an authorization to start email. If you kind of want to talk through the different parts of that.
Sure. So when I actually applied for this job, I was back home in India. So I'm an international student, so I had gone back home and I sent in my application. I think the hiring process was pretty quick. So I sent in my application. Within a week, I got an email that, okay, you have this interview. I gave my interview and then I came to the US. So now I did not have a social security number, so I had to apply for that, which is a separate process. But submitting the application, getting an interview, getting hired. So I think my interview was on a Friday, and by Monday I got the email that I was hired. So I was like, okay, yay! And then I flew to the US, and I think within a week or two, I had the onboarding information. So the onboarding appointment. So we orientation, I think we were told you about payroll and you need to submit this document, this tax form. I was like, okay, that's a lot of information, but it was provided very, in a great way for me to be able to remember all of it. And it was pretty smooth. I don't think I had any hiccups during the entire process, despite being an international student with no social security number. So yeah, it was a great process. Pretty smooth.
That's great to hear. Anyone else have a different experience? Maybe it took a little bit longer on your end. If you want to put your hand up.
I think I don't know if you remember Zahra, but my onboarding process was a little complicated, but not because of anything like from UTD. You were all super helpful even. But I got my name changed right when I got my job. So by the time I was going to do onboarding, I had like half my documents with one name and half with the other. So I've been doing my job all virtual. I live in Austin, and UTD is up in Dallas. It's a 3-hour drive. I had to actually drive up there to go and hand in all my forms. But everyone there, I was worried the entire time. But then I met Zahra. She was super nice, guided me through the onboarding process super smoothly. I was able to get everything done easily. Nico let me stay at her apartment, so I didn't have to drive up and down in one day. Um, and so even when there's like these scary complications that made me like freak out, it was still fine. It worked out well, and everything went really smoothly.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And it was lovely to meet you in 3D. The onboarding process does need to happen in person. And I think what sometimes students don't understand, and honestly, it's not just on the student end, it can be on the departmental side too, is that I do not have a bucket of money sitting to the side where I pay student wages from. So as a result, we do have to abide by all of the same regulations that HR abides by to hire staff and faculty. And so that process can take a minute, usually between 5 and 7 business days if we're like super quick on the ball and the students get their documents back, etc. But we want you working as soon as you possibly can legally do so. Van, I think you and Hallie are some of our old pros here. Tell us a little bit about the work-life balance for you. How did you come in? How do you stay organized? Because you are doing a lot. I mean, you are committing to working and keeping up that stellar GPA and hopefully maintaining some semblance of a personal life as well. So tell us, how do you do it all?
Oh yeah, similar. I know Robin mentioned earlier about sticky notes. I love sticky notes as well. um, in my cubicle back when we were in the office, for the past year we've been virtual. I had sticky notes all over. Um, I think also a note that our bosses mentioned often was not taking your work home if you have a job that is like you can take work home. Um, like, don't take it home. I'll be honest, I've done it a couple times where I would be staying up really late into the night working on some work, and then studying really late. But I think time management obviously is probably like a key factor to that. With me, I think that for it helps me personally when I have a goal every time I sit down, try to finish whatever I'm doing in that one time. I know some people like to break up like their studying or their homework, like, oh, I'll do half of this assignment now and half of it later. But I find with myself is that I might get distracted and then never want to come back to it. The will to finish is no longer there. So I to finish everything in that time that I've allotted to finish that so that later I can spend time without guilt, whether that be talking to my friends on the phone, a lot of that this year via Discord, but or like meeting friends back then. It was a little bit in real life when we were doing events on campus where we would be coming home at like 10, 11 p.m. Those days would be very tiring, but it is a one day, and I think it helps that the job is fun for me. I think making, or not that you have to make your job fun, because not everybody's job will be fun, but I think some people do have fun doing their job, and luckily for me, I had friends through the job. Making friends through your job is amazing also. Some of my best friends at UTD are from the on-campus job that I have. So a lot of the social aspect in my life comes from work as well. So I don't think that it was too difficult of a balance to maintain. Um, but for sure, like staying on top of your studies, and I think it helps because I think campus jobs, I don't know if I can speak over for everybody, but I feel like the majority of them, our advisors usually tell us to um, prioritize our school. Like school comes first before our job at the end of the day. So if we're struggling somewhere, our bosses are very accommodating to give us a break or let us do what we need to do before we go back to work. And I think that really helps with having an on-campus job versus an off-campus job.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, Van. What I share with all students during orientation, new hire orientation, is that your main goal is that you are students first. We want you graduating. We want you graduating with stellar GPAs. If you are ever curious and dive into the literature like I do, they have actually proven that you're more likely to graduate and to graduate with a higher GPA if you hold an on campus job part-time. Granted, if the hours go beyond 20, it actually goes the opposite direction where you're less likely to graduate and you graduate with lower GPAs. But, and it's for a number of reasons because, like you said, you're connected with the campus. You have more of a network. When you're ready for reference letters, you have one built in for when you're ready to move on to bigger and better things. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Hallie, as the other old pro working, tell us about your work-life balance.
So I think we have a really great office setup where we have this whole suite where it's both Meteor Theater and SWAB combined. We're all in the office working together. We're sister organizations, and so we pretty much do everything together, and that's a great balance for me because I get to branch out, first of all, beyond just my little work huddle over here. I have Van right across from me, so we can talk and share ideas and everything. But also having this suite where we each have our own cubicles, it's a great place where I actually am able to work on my schoolwork and everything whenever I'm off hours. So between classes, that's when I get to do my hours. We have a really good balance there when it's like they know that we're here for school first. And so if I need to come in at 8 in the morning and I have class at 10, then I work from 8 to 10, go to class, and then I can come back in when class is over at 11:30 and I just pick back up. And so that really helps me, I know, and especially getting to have my day broken up like that as someone who I got like that ADHD, like I can't just sit and I can't just stare at a screen for so many hours. I got to get up, I got to move, I got to do stuff. And so if I had just to sit at a computer for 8 hours a day or something, I would go crazy. But the ability to, okay, from 8 to 10, I get to sit and I do this. And then from 10 to 11:30, I go to class. And then in the afternoon I have a meeting, and so I'll go upstairs and I do a meeting, and then we have movie night, so then I have to go to the theater, and then I go into the theater. I think that's really great. I know for me personally, because it's not something where you think of like a 9 to 5 job where you're sitting at a desk all day and you don't move around or anything. This is a job where I get to constantly be moving and constantly be working on something, whether it be school related or it be work related. And so I love that environment that we've set up in this office, because it is something where you get to focus on both being a student and being a student employee. It's not just one or the other. They're really intertwined here, and I love that.
That's amazing. And speaking of zoned times for working, I imagine Ximena would have a lot to say about her on campus job and virtual schooling this past semester, I imagine. Do you want to give us a little bit of insight on that balance?
So before the pandemic, I was like one of those people that had a Google Calendar, like color coordinated, like this is the time I go to work, this is the time I go to class, like this is the time I'm gonna eat, and then I'm gonna do like I was super organized. And then being at home all the time kind of threw that out the window because I didn't have any kind of structure. So going back to the office was so nice for me because I still had a routine. And so I would go every single day from 8 to 12, and then all my classes started at 12. So I went like half my day at work, half my day at school, at home. It just gave me a lot of routine, and that's what I love so much about working on campus is that it creates a routine outside of school. So it's just a different pace that is also going on with school. Like I just never feel like I'm running myself so thin that I am staying up super late to do homework or whatever. I feel like I'm always kind of just doing everything in its time period. So I'm just really thankful to work on campus because when I got to go back, it was just so nice to finally have like time where I'm like in the office dedicated to this, because otherwise I'm super like I'll be doing something and then I'm like, oh, I should bake a cake, and I'll like stand up and like go bake a cake and then come back, and like so it was just a lot nicer to like be in my cubicle again and like actually focus on that.
That is really fascinating. I am wondering. So I just sent out a poly. Who uses a calendar to get organized day to day? Because I've heard a couple different tactics. I'm kind of curious about both our panelists, but also everyone else attending, just what the breakout is in using a calendar to get organized versus just sticky notes or, some kind of planner or something of the sort. Um, and that calendar base, because both you and Van mentioned that. And it's like, all right, this is fascinating.
Can I actually talk about something really quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm working from home, so I kind of have like the opposite experience where I'm trying to balance my work and school and my like free time, my social life, and everything else. All of it is kind of, it feels like the same big chunk because I'm just always here in my apartment. Especially right now, it's the summer. All of my friends are gone back home, so I'm kind of just here alone, and I sit in my apartment and I don't really do much. I can't drive. I just sit here. But um, one of the things that I do, first of all, I think Van mentioned it earlier, is to very much like keep your work and school and social life, keep that all sectioned out, make sure they're not like interfering with each other, make sure they're not blending into each other, because that can happen a lot. I am my mother's child. My mom would work like 24 hours, 24/7 if she could, just because she always feels like she needs to get everything done. Um, but what I do, obviously, I work for the Career Center. I have my hours every week, and I make sure that like when I'm on the clock, I'm doing work. When I'm off the clock, I'm not. I don't I don't even think about work when I'm off the clock. Sometimes I do, because yeah, but I try not to. But one thing that has actually really helped me like keep everything organized, keep everything scheduled, and keep myself like held accountable for all the things that I need to do is it's this app called Habitica. There's a phone app version and there's a desktop app version. It's it's really cool. It basically helps you like track habits and like things that you need to do, and it turns it into like a sort of RPG game type thing, and it's super fun. And you can collect items and things. Yeah, it's that. It's super great. There's like three sections. One is habits, and so you can personalize everything that you put on here. It's all stuff that you add and you include to keep yourself held accountable and start tracking your habits. So there's a section for habits where you can put like a plus or a minus, um, and so you can have like I have it pulled up over here. So I have a habit that's called work on visual skills. Since I'm a graphic designer, I'm an artist. And so the plus is for me like practicing art, me doing studies, me making good graphics, me making good UX or UI, me like practicing good habits with that. And then the minus is for like if I'm being lazy with my graphics or if I have a period of time where I just stop practicing art. So that's for the habits, and then there's dailies where it's like you check off. It's like to dos, but it repeats every day. So I have one that's like taking any medication that I need to take. Taking a shower. Eating, just making sure that I am getting the stuff done that I need to get done. And then for your to dos, you can put whatever you need to get done, just like all the things that you need to do, and you can scale them by like how hard they are to get through, and it's just super helpful. And I I started off not having it super organized, so I think there is definitely value to putting in some time to make your habits and all the things that you put on there pretty organized. But yeah, it's just really nice to use to keep yourself held accountable for the things that you need to get done, and for like you know all of your scheduling stuff. Because there's also habits that you can put. Like I said, it's personal. You can put whatever. I have a habit that is for taking breaks from work. So if I find myself like constantly thinking about work and like thinking too hard, trying too hard to stay productive all of the time, I like hit that minus button on that habit because it like it's something that I need to do. It's productive to not try to be productive all the time. So it really helps me to just focus on the things that I need to get done.
Thank you for the tool. I dropped it in the chat if anyone else wants to check it out. I think I'm going to poke around there a little bit later on today, too. So we have 9 more minutes. And I think it would be valuable to go around kind of rapid fire as to what kinds of transferable skills are your current positions helping you get so that you can move on to bigger and better things post graduation. Of course, here in student employment, we don't want you to have a job just for the sake of having a job. It's always great to have a little bit pocket money and spend it. But what we also want you to gain are these soft skills, as they're called. If you could real quick just touch on a couple of the soft skills that you're gaining in your employment so that you can be super successful once you graduate and you're going into your goal career. Aayushi, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, my job is very customer facing, and I speak with people from all across campus every day. And one thing that I've learned is to be patient in difficult situations and being able to come up with the solution to a problem. So, say for example, if somebody called me and they're like, "Oh, I cannot do this. I've been trying this for so long," and they're frustrated. I know that I understand their problem because I've been in similar situations. So now I cannot lose my temper. I need to figure out how to calm them down and also figure out a solution to their problem. So I think just through this experience, I experience is almost like daily. So I've learned how to be patient, how to think quickly, how to solve a problem, and just be overall like a great service to a customer because they're calling us for help. You don't want to be rude to them. They're already frustrated, so just calming them down. I think just this specific experience has been one of the best ways to learn so many skills at once. So that's pretty much it. Yep.
Thank you. Hallie.
So, when I'm looking for a job, I've been looking into things with copywriting and marketing because I'm a literature major, and so what I do is write. And as the executive chair of Meteor Theater, I have done a complete rebranding of our whole marketing. And that's something that doing that has really helped me when I'm looking for marketing positions. Otherwise, I would have no experience to talk about in interviews or anything. So just getting to participate in the whole rebranding of Meteor Theater is something that's really helped me really take a step towards marketing, whereas that's something that I never studied. And I got to do a lot of copywriting in this position because I was the person who was writing everything that we put on social media, everything on our websites, everything that goes on any of the print material. And so all of these things have helped me move more towards a marketing career where I did not think I would ever go into that, being someone who studied literature. And I'm really grateful to the job that I'm able to make that step.
Thank you. Nico.
Yeah, the same thing actually kind of goes for me with the marketing. Is I work for the Career Center. I'm a graphic design and marketing assistant. I am an A-Tech major though, and I always thought I was going to go into something like video games or like animation, something like that. But I realized that my visual skills were really strong, and so I started applying for these jobs, and I got I got this marketing job, and I got a lot of skills that um, sort of help me try and think through the brain of like people using social media. Goodness. But so yeah, I have a lot of skills now where I'm sort of thinking from other people's points of view, like as somebody using social media, somebody looking at these events, looking at the marketing for them. And I think that's actually a really valuable skill, especially in like UX and UI, like user experience. And that's something that I really enjoy and I want to go into. And so I have this really valuable skill now that I I can actually take from the Career Center and like use it in my future endeavors. The Career
Awesome.
Center, like having a job here is really good for building skills that like you want to have for your future careers, because they're the Career Center and they understand that like this isn't just a job, this is also a learning experience. So yeah, it's really great. I love my job so much.
Awesome insight. I am getting the pings that the keynote will begin in 4 minutes. So Robin, Van, and Ximena, rapid fire, real quick. Robin, you first.
All right. So I'm also an A-Tech major. I want to go into games and just picking up any sort of like skills that I can, since it's such a competitive industry. Just picking up anything that helps get me through the door, I think, is valuable all on its own. Yeah.
Dan.
For me, I think it was like getting comfortable with casual business talk, whether that be through email or meetings, public speaking. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really valuable, quite honestly, if you ever want to be around humans, I suppose. And bring us home, please.
For me, it's definitely office etiquette because I've never had a job before. And then also, I got to be part of the hiring process. So it was cool to see what they look for when they are trying to find a new employee. So I feel like I can like put that into my life.
That is a great point. So, a lot to think about. Thank you to everyone who joined us. And here you have all of these lovely names. So, reach out if you have any questions, any follow ups. Of course, you can reach out to me. I put in the chat the session link to take us to the keynote by Archie Nettles. So, thank you for joining us again. I hope to see all of you in 3D in the fall. So come see us over in the Career Center. We are glad to have you. And thanks again to our great panelists and all of the insight and the experiences and the skills that you bring to the table and are willing to share with your peers. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks. This has been really great.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. See you over
You
at the
too.
keynote. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.